Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Sunny Vanderstar. Today's topic is climate change, extinction, and hope for the future. And it will be presented by our fabulous NatHab expedition leader, Arpita Dutta. Arpita, thank you so much for being here today and for bringing us such an important and difficult subject to tackle. Let's go ahead and see what you have to show us today.
Thank you so much, Sunny. And yeah, you are very right. More than it's important, I think it's a difficult subject to cover, and because where we are standing right now. But I'm so thankful to all the viewers who are here today to listen to this, and I hope we will have a lot of question answer. And even I have so many questions, boggling in my mind when it comes to climate change, especially because it's so visible. But yes, with that, I would say that it's been always a childhood dream to roam around in the forest like Mowgli, because in India, Jungle Book has a lot of impression on children, and especially when we were kids, because we really don't have so much exposure to the outside world. So I think Kipling's book kept us, and a lot of other authors who wrote so much about forest, about oceans, rivers, mountains, and snow-peaked, like snow-covered mountain, the mountain forest. I mean, they have described nature in such a way that we were bound to fall in love and got attached with nature. And no matter what, whenever we feel like going somewhere, it's always like something very scenic, which is beautiful, where we can breathe, a perfect habitat for us to live. That's how we think, and that's how we definitely longing for, but unfortunately, and especially, let me tell you a short thing that before I chose this topic, Christine has done a wonderful presentation, webinar. Christine from NatHab, she has done a wonderful webinar in two phases, like part 1 and part 2, and she has described it so nicely. But this one I've been doing because in the city, I'm living in the city after almost 15-16 years. I'm living in the city for a couple of months, and trust me, it is so bad. I was discussing with Sunny that it never happened that I'm out from house and I feel that burning sensation, and it's difficult to breathe because of the smog around here. So yeah, that made that it is so visible that change is happening. So this, and too much humid over here, and that made me think, okay, let me talk whatever is happening, and I'll try to just touch a little brief of it, because climate change cannot be described, or our discussion cannot be over in just in an hour. So with that, I would say the first thing, because this thing I really come across even when I go to people or school children, and the first thing they ask that is the climate change related to the temperature, but it's sure it's one of the factor of the climate change, but this global warming and climate change it has a different perspective, two are different things. So when we talk about the global warming part, it's actually it's about the greenhouse gas, the emission of the total amount of greenhouse gases, such as the carbon dioxide, methane, which are trapped in the greenhouse of our atmosphere, and it reflects back on the earth, which makes the earth atmospheric temperature high. So that's the global warming, and that is also happening due to a lot of anthropogenic, it's all human activity which is affecting this. And climate change is more like a persistent thing. It's a long-term change of the weather pattern. Right now, this monsoon time or the winter, summer, or you have the tropical climate, how it's changing. So it's so all about that, a lot of factors which comes under the climate change. And today we are more concerned about the climate change because this global warming is also affecting this climate, or it's a vice versa thing. So we know that, you know, the changes are already been observed in a wide range of components of the Earth's climate system, right? And the ongoing changes are predicted, like including the long-term climate patterns, what we're talking about, and the trend, how it used to be. Like in 10, 15 years back or 20 years back, things were different. I mean, standing at 40, definitely I can think that, yeah, 20 years back, things were not like this. So those trends are breaking. And, you know, the magnitude and the frequency of this acute weather like events which are taking place, I think we haven't seen. Maybe in 100 years or 50 or 60 years, there is a time difference happens, but now it is happening quite often. And this this magnitude and frequency have their secondary you know, effects as impact as well, which is the loss of sea ice, and the sea level is also rising. This we all know, because now and often we get to know about the polar bears, that how much they are struggling, and even about the other species in different part of the world. So the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the ocean acidification is really affecting. And imagine the marine life and the marine ecosystem, which is which is thriving. That's the reason why we are still here on the earth, because if that portion is lost, which is happening soon, we are already facing the consequences, but soon we will face it in a very in more aggressive way. And so the impact is not only, I mean, impact is happening, of course, the organism and the subpopulation, the species, and the biodiversity and the ecosystem. And this ocean acidification is mostly like when there is so much of carbon dioxide the ocean is taking, and more that the pH balance of the Earth ocean is decreasing, and that's why it is more acidic. And you know what? Like between 1950 to 2020, like 3 years back, the average pH of the ocean surface fell from approximately 8.15 to 8.05. It sounds very less, but when it is affecting as a whole, it has a bigger impact to it. So, the factors affecting climate change, which is like air temperature near the surface. Whenever we, especially I'm talking about India, whenever there is a like the summer is approaching, we go out near the you know, sea area to have a good like a holiday, because the Mediterranean climate is good. But nowadays it is not that uh, healthy, or I would say not very relaxing nowadays. The humidity, of course, the humidity right now where I'm living, the humidity is almost more than 80%. So it is really, really exhausting. Sorry, the temperature over oceans, I'll come to this one, and the sea surface temperature as well. And the ocean heat content is changing a lot of life, important life, which is there in the ocean, the ice, the temperature rise. These all are affecting like the factors which we can definitely feel the climate change. With this, I'm telling you one thing, that generally most of the time I just go out, I take a break in the monsoon, and I keep roaming around the rainforest areas in India. And we do have like 4 biodiversity hotspot in India, so it always triggers me to move around the city, move around those areas. But this time, even the places I have decided, because I had to like see some particular species, and because of the rain, even they were not out much. So I have to cancel, or like for this year, to reach out to those areas. So this is really disheartening, and this is really scary, because sooner or later we all are going to fall in this thing, because the smaller faunas are getting more affected. So with this, and this climate change is as because it is happening pretty faster, and the preliminary as a result of human activities, that is the worst part to be think of, and the impact related to climate change are evident. Of course, like human health, agriculture, food, like security, water supply, transportation, energy, biodiversity, ecosystem, everything. The impacts are like expected increasingly, and how we can tell that okay, this is what is happening, and how it was there before, I mean, 100 years or 200 years back. The first thing which comes, the record of the historical climate we get from the tree ring. So every tree, when we get to see, when we can know by their age, but the botanists, they know by the tree shape of the tree ring, or the crack, or the black portion, or the width between each of the ring, can tell that how much the tree has grown. For one, just an example, that this area which you see abroad, like there's a little bit thicker, so that's a rainy season. So in monsoon, it has, maybe in that year from where the tree ring has started, maybe in that year the tree got pretty good monsoon, and that's the reason why the growth rate is higher. The growth rate is higher. And even this one which is there is from the forest fire, that it got the xylem, it's got definitely some scars out there. So this is how the tree ring can tell about that, how things were 200 years before. And with that, the sea caps, over how much deposition or what is happening, the scientists, of course, they are finding, because the deposition, I mean, there is a metal scale which goes in and pick up the a chunk of glacier, and the sea look through the electronic microscopic and see the organism or the components which are there. So those gets how it was. And also the ocean, or the water bed, the river, not the river bed, the ocean bed or the water bed over there, they get to know, the sedimentation which has happened. So from there also you get the information of the historic thing, because the more water is rising, the erosion, the flow, and everything is coming in, that is there. And also from the reef, because they are one of the longest living creatures. Some lives for 1,000 years as well. So of course from them they get the data out of it, that how it was. And of course where we are standing right now, we are in the 6th mass extinction, and the Holocene or the Anthropocene extinction is now underway, like threatening the global biodiversity. And whatever extinction we used to talk about, the 5th extinction happened, we are in a much faster process wherever we are standing right now. And of course, the most affected ones are the marine life, the insects, because they are small. I mean, it is difficult for them to, because you know what? Before I go to this, it just make it feel that when it's an evolution, right, that where they're living, how the kind of habitat they have chosen. But when it is beyond that in their capacity or evolution, because it is happening, the climate change is happening, or the habitat destruction, this is happening so fast that for even the creatures it is difficult to evolve them with that adaptation, because evolution takes time, and they are not getting that time. So unfortunate, and each and every animal has so much thing to do to keep the balance, of the ecosystem. And definitely, it's now about almost like near about 11,000 species uh, already are in danger. According to IUCN, but that is only known. Imagine how many species we haven't even seen it. These are only reported ones. So yeah, uh, so these are like wherever the things are changing. If the global warming or the climate change, all are changing a bit, and they are the population of the animals are definitely declining, and it's declining pretty fast. So with that, when we talk about the declining of the animals, so let me tell you, this tiny, it's a rat, it's just a rat, but it's tiny. I won't say that it is for the cuteness and all. Just think about, it's a mammal. And for being a mammal, this is the first reported mammal which got extinct from the world because the direct effect of, or the direct result of, climate change. This is really bad. Imagine it's a tiny one, and it's actually live in this area. It was previously found only in the island of Bramble Cay in Great Barrier Reef. Its habitat, it's a small, very tiny island, and where, because of the climate change and because of the sea water rising of seawater, the whole island, the portion of the island is underwater, and it has repeated like that during the tides and stuff. So, and that's very unfortunate that we lost this species. And it has been like, it got extinct in 2016. So already we have 7 years passed, like we have lost the first mammal, and after that, of course, the more up close to the critically endangered species as well. With that, when we see, or whenever I even when I see the post of our Australia trip, and I see the beautiful Great Barrier Reef and all the animals out there, because Australia is really, really special, because most of the endemic species we get to see there, and not only endemic, they are very unique by their own way. And for example, a big example is the platypus. Like, when, I don't know, when nature has made it, or when the evolution has had, what exactly they were trying to clone, like bring every species together, the characteristic. So imagine how unique that thing is. And with that, even the corals are unique as well, and one of the most valuable thing for the marine ecosystem, because they are beautiful, they are colorful, but they were very vital to life on Earth, because at least like quarter of the world's marine life depends on coral for some part of their life, of course. But despite of their importance, coral reef around the world are disappearing fast, and which is alarming. In March 2022, 91% of the reef was impacted by bleaching, and it was the first time it happened during the La Nina weather. The La Nina weather is like where it typically creates a cooler, cloudier condition. So that has happened, and the bleaching. What happens is, sorry, you see here. So this is a soft coral. How beautiful they look like, gosh. And this is how the coral looks like. They can be so colorful because of the presence of an algae called zooxanthellae. And this marine algae, they are already very colorful. So what happens when the temperature rises and the warmer water has less oxygen also, and this coral get stressed and they expel this colorful marine algae, like which are living inside their tissues and living, and after they expel it, they live with this they live with that skeleton behind. Because, and it is this coral bleaching, if it continues for like long, it is really threatening to the whole region. Because most of, I mean, few corals, definitely few corals are there which can feed themselves, but without algae most of the corals would starve. But there is a little hope behind it, that it takes around a decade for recovering if only it gets the suitable condition. So again, this suitable condition, we have that in our hands, so that we can't stop it. It's difficult to stop at the moment, but at least we can slower the process. That is in our hand. I mean, as much as what we can do. And with the coral, we have other difficulties or other factors which is affecting the wildlife and nature. And even because we are completely dependent on the earth and their creature or its substitutes, that it will directly or indirectly, it will come to us. The threat would come to us. It's coming to us rather. So the rise in temperature changes a lot of things in the life, which is like the ecological, behavioral, physiological, and the genetic changes. And how does it happen? So when we talk about the ecological changes, it's of course the ecosystem and also something related to the human life, how you get it. And so I'll say about the migration of the Chinook salmon. And more than 45% of the variability in production of the juvenile Chinook salmon is associated with the river temperature. And also, it is more associated, and the temperature or when they are spawning, it's mainly like the population dynamics are largely driven by factors occurring between the spawning adult and the first stage of their offspring in the first summer. So this two time, it is very important for them to breed or to increase the population. But their life cycle is threatening because of the change in climate, because of the warmer temperature. They are moving, they are moving ahead of where they should be. So over past few like decades, the the parent that experienced warmer water temperature, and they have lower discharge in their like mainstream Yukon River, which produced fewer juveniles per spawning adults. So if they don't spawn, and if it gets like spoiled, then definitely we are getting less amount of juvenile. And then imagine the juvenile needs to like survive, and that is also not happening, because the migration timing did shift earlier in response to the warmer fresh water. This is one reason, because they have to travel long, so they need more energy. And as I mentioned, warmer water contain less oxygen, so this is more stressful for the spawning salmons. So of course all them together, because they need a temperature of 59 degree, which has which has increased now for last few decades. I mean, it's too warm for them. And this water temperature also given rise to many bacteria, and salmons are getting affected due to that. And now, how we are getting affected. Imagine people who are fishing on, or who are doing, who are in the fisheries. And just to get one more point over here, it's not only about the salmon. The same thing is happening in India as well. The people who are like fishermen and all, or they do fishing, they are really struggling a lot to get fish where they used to get. Now they have to go more down towards the ocean, or if it's in the river, they are getting very less amount of fish. Naturally, the price is very high. So all this thing happening, it's just is an example for the salmon, but definitely we all are facing this everywhere in the world. So of course, if you're not getting enough salmon and the quality of salmon, you are not earning that, and the whole population who lives near that, the whole population thrive from this species out there. And some behavioral change is there are a lot actually, but because it's a North American tree swallow, I thought that it's better to give this example. So like earlier breeding time for the North American tree swallow, it's mostly they breed between May to September, and the egg laying has advanced by 9 to 10 days. This is associated with increasing the surface air temperature at the time of their breeding. I mean, imagine if you go back, just check that 20 years back, or 50 years back rather, I would say 50 years back, how the temperature at that time it was happening and how the temperature is right now. And it sounds like 9 to 10 days it's fine, but imagine it's a change, because they need to feed the young. Maybe that time the insects or things might not be available, or maybe they need a little moisture which is not there. Maybe there is a wind which is a hot air wind. A lot of thing happens, even like a 10 days of weather change. It matters. It matters for this little bird. And over here in India, we have a problem, like not only problem, it's getting threatened species for two reasons. The first reason, which been happening like from many, like hundreds of years, which is like this is an Indian bullfrog. People eat their meat, like they prefer chicken, so they are pretty big, and but they were in abundance. They were in abundance. But now what we are seeing and we are facing is the population is declining, and it's not because that humans are consuming their meat. It's because of the false pre-monsoon shower. So mostly what happens right before the monsoon, there is one shower, maybe for 3-4 days, or like a week before maximum. So in the first, they breed in the first shower, you know, the pre-monsoon thing. But and then there is a small shallow pool happens, and then they breed, they lay egg, and within few days, you know, the tadpoles and all, they move into a different near shallow areas. But what is happening now in April, where we don't get monsoon, we don't get rain. Right now it is happening for a day or two, and then it stopped. And imagine maybe after 15-20 days, or maybe after a month or a half, they are, I mean, the place is getting rainfall. So imagine these eggs, look at this, they have laid the eggs there, and this is what happened by only within 2 days, 2-3 days. We have little less water, but in 2-3 days it's almost about to dry, because it is exposed, right? They don't have any shell. It is exposed, so definitely their population is declining because of this climate change, because of this trend broke, which is a pattern of weather. And of course they're declining because of that. And then of course people got used to having their meat, and so they are not stopping it, though the awareness program and everything is happening. I mean, as much as we can reach out to people, but these are the reasons which is definitely affecting the species. Next is the physiological changes. By now, if you all know, or if you don't know, that I work with reptiles, and especially with the turtles and the crocs. So the thing is, they don't have the sex chromosomes. So they are like the temperature dependent, sex determination happen. So imagine, due to the climate change, global warming, and all this, whatever is happening, there is an imbalance of the male female ratio, because for every species they have a particular temperature for male and for female. So for example, in some turtle, if it is raised, for example, if it is, I mean, the one I worked with, if it is raised like more than 31 and all, it will be a female. And if it is less, if it is dropped more below 35, then again it will be a female. So for male, it is a very small window. And imagine if we have more female, there is no point, because you have to keep on breeding. And then because of climate change, because of bacterial influence and pollution and stuff, even the few males which are coming out, they have grown, a little, like grown few years. They are also incapable of fertilization. I'm forgetting I'm just, I'm not getting the word. Yeah, infertile, sorry. So they are also getting in, I mean, they are also infertile. So this all problems we are facing. So this one, the below this picture, this is a gharial with a longer snout croc. And these are the gharial babies which just hatched. They are must be 3 days old. And this is the mother, I mean the female, which is protecting they have a huge, I mean, amazing protecting instinct. And this has been this we have seen in Chitwan National Park in Nepal. So imagine, we have seen it, and after that there was a flood. And after the flood, we didn't see any of these hatchlings out there. So, and no one even caught in the fishing net or anywhere. And this whole area was flooded, which was, the water never raised above that, but it happened in 2018. Yeah, in 2018. So yes, all these things are pretty much factored that, we are losing this population. And this gharial is critically endangered. I mean, we have only near about 1,200 individuals which are there, which are left in the wild. With this, we have another genetic changes. So with the habitat change and the ecology change, they are moving from one place to another. And of course, for that, the inbreeding is, the hybridization is happening. So this is a common toad and a green toad in the southern Italy. I mean, they mate, and of course, it's an hybridization which have been found between these two toads. So yeah, and hybridization can definitely get into a lot of genetic disabilities, a lot of deformation, and there could be a lot of variations and all. And sometimes this hybridization can really affect the ecosystem. So yes, with this, I would say with all these factors, we have another factor which we are focusing, or which we are getting a lot of thing, is the migration. And it's not only the migration that it's a winter migration, it's a summer migration. I'm not talking about this migration. This is more about the climate change migration. And because it is always the seasonal cues, such as warmer spring temperature or cooler temperature in the fall, tells the animal when to migrate, when to mate, and when and where to find the food. It's all about that. All the prey, predators, birds, mammals, reptiles, all follow this natural schedule. and they have been following that. But now they have changed. It's changing and rapidly. And you know this, I mean, according to the study, which is funded or collaborated by NASA researchers, they have collected a lot of data and analyzed, I mean, collected data from 1991 to present, and they have analyzed that the Arctic animals, the movement patterns are shifting in different ways, which could be a disruptive, factor, disruptive to ecosystem. Because as I mentioned, if there is a living, suppose there is an animal which feeds on particular types of grass in that point of time. Here, few animals had to leave their region and have to move towards a higher elevation or to a different place, and somehow they started feeding on that. So imagine that regional, and if they are dominant, then that regional species are getting affected. So this is a cycle, and the cycle is breaking slowly. So I would mention about the Arctic place, but of course there are, it's all around the world. Globally, it is happening. We are in a global crisis, of course. But the annual Arctic sea, like sea ice, how it shows. So if you see this, and it is in 79 how it was, and if you see in 1990 and 1991, you can see the reduction. And this is in March. Sorry, this is in March. You see, it is in 1985. So the ice sheet has covered this much of area, and this is March 2021. So by every passing year, we are losing the cap ice or the Arctic ice, and definitely, and it says that the ice cover shrank to an area of 4.67 million square kilometers, and it's like 1.8 million square miles, I mean, in by 2022 year. So this is scary. I mean, even while telling this or while preparing this, or whenever we talk about or we do a lot of work on environment related things, before even I could speak out, I think I feel scared. I feel very scared that okay, maybe I won't leave. I can't outlive all these things and there, because but I really feel that what is the next generation or their next generation, 100 years, the whole art is going to change, and there is nothing left behind for which it can have a recovery, time, or they can recover. So yeah, it's really scary for that. And of course, with this Arctic ice movement or the sea cap, the ice cap is reducing. The migration is happening due to different region. For example, I'm telling you, in India, tiger had been spotted. The Royal Bengal tiger, we generally see in the subtropical like areas, the kind of forest they live in. But there have been some records that where it's almost like 3,500 to 4,000 feet above, which we have never like come across in that altitude. So, and even they're moving from different areas, so we can see something is happening because they know it way before than the time when we get to know this. But yeah, so I'll say about the species range shift. Yesterday we did one webinar on conservation photography. So why we were focusing on that, or why we are emphasizing on it, was wherever you go, when you see some species, and to document it, because you might not have never seen that species at that particular region. But right now we are getting a lot of records of the range extension, that it has been found here, and most of the time it has been found that the species are moving to a higher elevated areas. And imagine if everyone is moving towards the higher elevation, or again, it's a disruptive thing for the ecosystem, because every ecosystem can sustain a particular species of animal which can thrive on that. But when there is when there is no room for all, and definitely they need to kick it out, like the survival of the fittest. So that species range shift is definitely happening. And unfortunately, we are one of the biggest reason of this for this factor or for this effect. So why is it like important? We are talking about so much things, and why is it so important? It's because altered food change. Uh, the altered food chain is breaking for all this reason. Then invasive species are occupying those areas where they shouldn't have, or because of their presence, a lot of things is dying. And of course, we have already witnessed a lot of forest fires, cyclones, and whatnot. So we are definitely facing all this thing, which is the carbon sink, become the sources. So, all the species play an essential roles in the ecosystem, and habitat loss, destruction of the deforestation, or destruction of the particular protected area, or the ocean, it's already affecting in a much bigger way. So here, to start with, the alternate food chain is the krill. Imagine krill. It's a tiny creature. It is the lowest one in the food chain, one of the lowest in the food chain, and it is impacting the whole population because they are tiny, and because of the increase in the sea ice melting, the ocean acidification in the Arctic Ocean is reducing the krill population, threatening the survival of the species depend on it as the primary food source. Think of it: if you don't have food, you don't know how to do agriculture, how to grow your crops, and you have to depend whatever is available in front of you, and then they are getting missing and rapidly. So the climate change and everything is doing a lot, and with that, we human are like another addition to it, a big addition to it. For an example, the blue whale can have like 1.314 tons, let's say 1.35, 1315 tons per year. They need krill, and the human fishing vessel take more than like 7,500 tons of krills. So because of the increase in temperature, their population is declining, and then we are adding to it, so that things are ending. So imagine how many species are getting affected because of that. And of course, they are interdependent on each other. The invasive species. The proliferation of these invasive species is happening because of the warmer temperature, and they are the South American species, where they have like spread all around the world except Antarctica. And here we definitely facing a lot of problem because of this water hyacinth. They are covering the whole water bodies, even the rivers, in the patches of river, lakes, everywhere. And when they are in population, they are reducing the oxygen level in that water body, and definitely for that, the fishes who are living over there are dying. And if the fish are die, the people who are dependent on those fishes in that area, they are not getting enough fish to sustain their livelihood. So see how much they are connected to it. And definitely we cannot produce fish, and so we are dependent. So definitely this invasive species is a big threat towards the ecosystem. And this forest, imagine, okay, before that, I say that it's definitely not in the Arctic place, but it's happening everywhere. And this forest, I'll tell you where and what, but this is another reason I'm going to talk about the carbon sink. So this carbon sink concept is, you know, the most carbon sink happened, or it's been, we are getting favor from the trees and the ocean, that they are absorbing all the carbon from carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and utilizing that carbon as a source. But this climate change affects the ability of the plant species to sequester the carbon and turning this carbon sink into carbon source. So the result is happening is the tree death, the cause of the disease, drought condition, and the upsurge in the number of severity of the forest fire, causing the increase in carbon emission. So it's happening, it's just the reverse thing is happening. And why I get this forest, this is the Dipteroca forest of the Indonesian Borneo. And you know what, in 1997 to 1998 for a year, this lowland area during the El Nino event, this forest has reduced the diversity of the food trees of sun bear by 44%. And not only the sun bear, but also the Southeast Asian birds over 28 years showed a different change and a shift towards the higher elevation in the response to climate change. And imagine where we go to see, I mean, when we go to Borneo to see this beautiful, the small sun bear, which more act like a human, like, and imagine we have lost them because of the climate change. And still, I think Wong is still, Dr. Wong is who is working on the bear, sun bear protection and breeding places, but it is really difficult. I mean, if anyone, if you have been there or planning to go there, just talk to him about the previous ecosystem where they have been sustaining and why, what is the cause of, you know, their declining population. He is an amazing man. He's trying really hard to reach out as many as possible, and he's doing an amazing work for the bear, sun bear protection. And yeah, with that, we have now, the thing is, whatever is happening around us, it's fine, but what we can do, like, we know what we can do, but it's like how things can be done. It's a reduce, the first thing we have to bring in mind is to reduce carbon dioxide emission. And if we take the responsibility to do our bit, I think that also puts some, like maybe 0.00001%, but at least it will give some effect to it. It's like if we are getting like you know, solar panels by using like I mean, we should pay things nowadays. I mean, not nowadays, we stop here. I know over here in India, and many of you definitely must be doing it, like we have stopped taking the receipt, and many of the organizations or many of the companies, they have stopped giving you know, printed receipts. So you know, where they give, you can ask for no paper. We can use the smartphone, it's so easy, or just the tap. It's really easy, so that we don't use those, which is really not required. So using LED bulbs can actually save 80% of the energy, though it is little costly, but it reduces the electricity things. I think we all are somehow, we all know that what can we do, that like green, we have to support the green industries, and of course the donation to the organization who are doing the carbon negative projects. Then discard plastics. Definitely, I think we have converted ourselves to like mostly plastic free life, as much as whichever is there in our hand. So all these things are definitely there. and then we can actually help nature to help people. So this is I would say that, you know, every time we think about nature, we have to think about the indigenous people out there. They are losing their you know, the work which are, because they are more related to the nature, and the more this climate change is declining the habitat or just destroying the habitat system, they are also getting affected, and they are becoming more dependent, or I mean, you know, that much is left, and they have to take from there. So giving them or to build something so that we can support, or they can start off something of their own for the indigenous people. There is a project which has like started with the organization called Turtle Survival Alliance, and so this one has been with the local weavers we have been working with, and then of course help species to cope. Fortunately, I think I'm very fortunate to work with so many different species of animals, like rescue rehabilitation, or like I got so many infants and like brought them up and then releasing back into the nature, and then some ex situ in situ conservation. But because it is like directly I'm working with it, but no, not that you can influence people to save the animals. We have very strict wildlife like in constitution law, so we cannot do that without the forest department permission. But of course you should know that if anything in stress or something, you can help them out. Or if you know that in this habitat a particular animal is living, you can take the initiative to protect that habitat. You know that because habitat now at this point of time, habitat restoration or habitat preservation is one of the most important, because if we have the habitat, we will have the animals, because nature know how to take its own course, how to do its own rules. So yeah, those things are there. So here a lot of programs everywhere is happening, that you know that you bring back the eggs, and even the small ones, and when they grow up you release them back into the wild to make that the decline number which has happened, so bring back the wild population. So these are like one of a few of those. And of course, the animals should thrive in their own habitat, exactly like the first picture. I mean, imagine just to see the tiger, just the animal in the zoo. We can see that in the zoo, right? Are we going to get the same feeling just to see in the wild? You all travel from so far to here to see, so to see this majestic cat, and but imagine if there is no habitat. I mean, if when you are, I know you know, you are aware of it, but when to, it is our responsibility to aware, you know, people. So you have to make this conservation tools, and everyone can do it. It's not a scientist, it's not only a scientist's job, it's not only people who are working directly, a biologist's job. It's depends on everyone. You can bring out that which are, you know, what kind of projects is required for that particular area, sending, talking to the authorities, and you know, analyze this data. Whatever, you can build up a team who can work voluntarily on a particular portion, on a particular area, and where to implement. If you are making a pilot program, and you can actually select that where you can implement those in a different in different areas, and where the statistical analysis are there, you get the measures whether it is good or bad. The initiate, the effort has to be there. And fortunately, with the hope, even like a quite a long 15-20 years back, we were not so much of aware of it. And I mean, seeing the children who are nowadays, I mean the young minds, we see hope in them. I mean, they are much more aware now at their age. No shame to say that when we were at their age, and imagine, I mean, this little kids. I mean, they must be in the sixth grade or seventh grade. They are like so aware, so cautious. You can see the expression, and we have been there. Are a lot of things are happening where the students are, and we know Greta, of course, at her young age, what a big step she has taken. So yeah, this nurturing this young minds can really save us, and of course save them, because they are the only hope to us. And of course people are much more aware thanks to all the social media, all the conferences, and the initiative taken by different NGOs, authorities, and even individuals, for which we know about the concern, we know about that we are in the crisis, we have to turn back right now, otherwise it will be pretty late. People are using e-bikes, like cleaning beaches, and this one particularly where my cursor is, like safe area. People, I mean, there are thousands of people were just standing in the line. So there was a metro station was about to happen by cutting out a forest patch which was there in Maharashtra, in Mumbai area, and they have those 1,000 people. They just stood there for days in the protest not to deforest that area for metro, because there were other areas where they can shift the metro. So that was a huge effort. You can just learn about it to save the arid forest. So it was a big protest which has been done. Nowadays a lot of conferences are happening, new agreements, new proposals or new things are coming up for the climate change, to control the climate change, or to try to reverse back the climate change, what is happening. So of course, if we implement those things, that definitely would help us to at least to breathe. And of course, keep traveling to inspire. Traveling is a big thing. I would say it's not because we are from the travel community, but traveling gets you to understand a lot of areas, a lot of change in climate, a lot of different types patch of forest, and definitely a different types of species you get to see. And the more you see, it's not about you traveling getting the happiness out of it, but when you go back, you can actually influence numbers of people that what exactly is happening. So in that way, it's definitely good to see and travel more. Otherwise, even I wouldn't have known so much, even around India. So I'm really lucky to do this because of my work, and I hope our path will cross someday. And thank you so much for listening to me. Sunny, I'm
Arpita,
ready to take up questions.
thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate you bringing us some difficult and complex topics. Lots to think about and lots to do. There were a few overlapping questions about efforts in zoos or labs or by individuals to breed these species that are going extinct. Do you know anything about efforts like that with regards to the bramble K mouse or other animals that you talked about?
Okay, so okay, let me talk about the organization I work with. And definitely I do the in situ and ex situ conservation, which is like, it's mostly I do for the now I do for the turtles, which is it's critically endangered, where the species has declined. So we collect those eggs, and we release it back when they are little like older, or not older, but when they grow up near about a kilo or 2 kilo of size, and then we release them back into the wild to bring their population back. So of course there are a lot of organization and institutes which are doing this breeding programs. In zoos are also happening. But the thing is that when you are releasing it, because of habitat destruction and loss of habitat, even releasing them, we are taking a second chance to see them thriving in the wild. But because of this habitat change and temperature, imagine I think that climate change or the threat pendulum is still ticking above their life. Is that
Yes,
okay?
thank you very much. Um, there's a larger question about human population control. Um, Sort of a very open-ended question. I don't know if you want to address that.
Thank you so much for asking this question, but it made me laugh because the place I'm sitting is India. We are, I don't know for what we are known to, but we are definitely very famous to the world for our population. Um, and yes, for places, human population is definitely it's a big thing. And because of the increase in population, the encroachment towards the natural habitats are also increasing, and the population demands a lot of things. I mean, starting from carbon emission is happening because of the population. So I think it's more like how in China they have like there's policies to control the population. We should have. I mean, I'm talking about India. It's definitely. I mean, even there are millions of people. If they disappear, still we will be the highest populated country in the world. So, of course, there should be some policies behind it to do the population control, and the rest I think we all know.
Mhm.
I am doing my part. I'm not getting my offspring. I have a lot of animal babies to take care of.
Well, Arpita, I just want to share a comment because I think it reflects, how I feel and many of the folks who enjoy listening to your presentations feel. Thank you for that sobering and effective presentation. Researching climate change is heart-wrenching, I'm sure. Your beautiful environmental passion reflects clearly in your words and tone and delivery. So thank you again
Oh,
for
wow.
sharing your knowledge and passion with us, even when it's difficult. I'll hand it back to you for closing comments.
Oh gosh. Oh, it's made my day. It's not day here, but night. But I think I'll sleep very happy after listening, because trust me, I mean, sometimes I forget, sometimes I get very blank, I get numb, because while presenting, my brain start thinking of those things. But I'm so glad that you all could relate with the thing and could understand my emotion. I could share with you all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we will all fight together for this climate change to bring something good for sure. And thank you so much, Sunny.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And it does take all of us working together. I want to
Yeah.
thank everybody who tuned in. Please join us again tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nadhab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I'll conclude the webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone.